Mccrory has battled through Crohn's disease, surgery. Great to see him out there.
Yeah, Will had to take last season off, so he was not available to compete last year. And I want to tell you right now that none of these dives are easy that these men are doing, whether they're going off the 10-meter or another platform height. None of these dives are easy. That's an inward 3.5 somersault, and it's performed very well, very well.
8s and 8.5, 76.80 for the sophomore. Greg Ferrucci now from Kentucky. He was 4th at the 1 meters here.
Let's set the stage a little bit. We're going to see men do 6 dives, and they must cover all 6 groups: forward, backward, reverse, inward, twisting, and arm stand. Now, there is a very acrobatic dive for a former gymnast right there, and this is amazing. A back 2.5 with 1.5 twist. He shows his flexibility, he shows his acrobatic skills, he shows his ability to stretch and point his toes. He's got it all.
8.5, so 9 and 9.5 on that dive for Ferrucci. David Banucki now from Missouri, 3rd at the 1 meters. SEC Diver of the Year.
Okay, starts off with a good, not a great forward 3.5 somersault pike, and you see the cap came off. He's got a broken eardrum, broken right eardrum, and he did it diving about 3 weeks ago, so he has to wear that cap to protect that ear. It can be painful.
67.50 for the Mizzou junior. Connor Murphy now, Indiana junior. He was 5th on the platform a year ago.
Connor Murphy, a walk-on at Indiana. He's a junior now, a walk-on, and here he is in the finals of the NCAAs. Coach Jeff Huber can do that with so many athletes, and he has done it over the years. Oh, what a dive, what an entry. He just powders that entry. Doesn't make 3 drops worth of splash. Well, maybe 6. But what beautiful control on his arm stand. Great twisting position. No wobbling in the twist. Reaches for the water. Okay, so it was a little bit more splash than I said, but I was being a little dramatic.
How about 9s across the board, Cynthia? 86.40. Christian Ibsen, he's won the 1 meter, he's won the 3 meter.
Christian is learning how to dive 10 meter, but he's on the 7 meter for this first dive. A lower platform doing a forward 3.5. He'll eventually probably do a forward 4.5 on the 10 meter. And he loves diving platform. He's learning it. He's been a springboard medalist in synchronized diving at the Olympic Games. This is a great forward 3.5 for his first dive.
You got a perfect 10 from one judge on that one, 71.40. Now Ryan Hawkins, ACC platform champion.
And one thing the judges want to see is a good jump off the platform, even though, you know, amazingly, they're almost 33 feet off the surface of the water at 10 meters. But you can see that you hit the end of the platform, you vault up, just like a gymnast in Florex, and you do your maneuvers, your somersaults, your twists. Ryan Hawkins starts out with a darn good first dive as well.
72 points total on that one. Rafael Quintero, freshman from Arizona.
What a talent. He's the only freshman in the finals. What a talent he is. Oh my goodness. Forward 3.5. He's quick. He's got the precision, the beauty, he's learning how to compete and all the mechanics to do these difficult dives. He's going to be something.
69 points on that one. Final dive first round, Nick Mccrory, two-time champion here on the platform in 2010, 2011.
Nick's first dive is his highest degree of difficulty dive in this final. He has decided to concentrate on springboard this NCAA season, so he hasn't been practicing as much off of the 10-meter as he certainly did last year during the Olympic year, where he won a bronze medal with David Budaya in synchronized diving at the Olympics. So he's going to do some dives off the lower platforms, but he starts off with this real high degree of difficulty, back 2.5 with 2.5 twists. And it's good, but it's not the cleanest dive he's ever done. Made a little splash.
84.60 for the Duke Blue Devil. Round two now for Will Chandler from Texas.
Hardest forward spinning somersault going, a forward 4.5, and has a little trouble completing those somersaults. Will's the only competitor doing that dive, and we saw a lot of those in the Olympics this last summer, including Nick Mccrory, but he's not doing it in this contest.
68.45. Greg Ferrucci, one of the top divers in Kentucky history, the junior.
Greg chooses to split leg press up into the arm stand, and we're going to watch. He struggles a little bit. He's actually broken a little bone in his wrist previously, and you see struggling just a little bit, but he has been a gymnast and he knows how to do an arm stand. Probably would have scored a little bit higher if he had held that steady balance longer.
7 to 7.5, 67.20. David Banucci now on the SEC springboards. Here he is on platform.
Second dive for Banucci, choosing to put his arm stand in round two. Everybody will do an arm stand. He's got those supports around his wrist, and they protect the wrist. Platform diving can be hard on the wrist. A lot of force. Not just in an arm stand, but going in the water, the way the divers grab their hands and flat palm it to do that splashless, or what we call the rip entry. And this is such a nice entry going in the water. David Banucci is really good when he starts ripping. There's his coach, Jamie Sweeney, talking about it. They're having a little fun.
8s and 8.5s there. Connor Murphy now from Indiana. He hails from Lake Forest, California, all Big Ten diver.
Connor Murphy, last year he was 5th in this event, and he qualified 5th position. None of those points carry over. Again, platform diving, sort of a combination of gymnastic floor X, trampoline moves, and maybe even aerial skiing.
64.50 for the Hoosier. Now Christian Ibsen, can he win all three events here? 1 meter, 3 meter down the platform.
This would be a tall order for him to win this one because he's just learning how to dive platform. Not saying he couldn't. He's already pretty darn good on the platform, and he's just getting his feet wet, so to speak, as he does an inward 3.5 now. Some say that by the next Olympics, you're going to have to do an inward 4.5. to be competitive in the next Olympics. That just blows my mind to even think about that. Looks like he was.
Got an 81.60 there.
Yeah, that's a pretty high score, and it's good. He was sort of exercising his shoulder around. Sometimes you go in the water and your body just gets thrown around a little bit.
Ryan Hawkins right there.
He is such a beautiful diver. He really seems to know where vertical is, and I think that's a combination of his kinesthetic awareness, knowing when he's right side up and upside down in the air, and also using visual references or those spots. Divers spot the water most of the time because it's always there.
8s and 8.5s. Here's Quintero again, Puerto Rico.
Gosh, this guy's a pretty diver. Such a beautiful diver. Rafael Quintero doing an inward 3.5, and I just don't need to say a whole lot about how beautiful this is. He looks at the water in front, right there, and now he's going to reach right out in front to drill that entry. The whole point is to be vertical.
9s and 9.5s. And Nick Mccrory, second round.
Okay, so Nick doing a forward 3.5 off the 7 meter, not the 10 meter. Carries a little bit more degree of difficulty off the 7 than it does off the 10 meters. So, like I said, he's been concentrating on springboard, and he's really trying to refocus for the next 4 years on how he's going to approach his Olympic quest.
71.40 for Mccrory. We move to the third round, and the Waco, Texas native Will Chandler for the Longhorns.
And he almost does this dive terrifically. He's just a little shy of vertical, and he gets a bit of an arch in his back when he goes in the water, and you're going to see it right there. Just a little arch, and that creates that splash because he's just doesn't get to vertical. There's his coach, Matt Scoggin, been at the University of Texas for a long time. He's a terrific coach.
Over 64 points in that dive. Now Greg Ferrucci, Jr.
I just love the way Greg Ferrucci goes after his forward 3.5 somersault. He goes to the end of the platform and he jumps up so high and keeps his head up. He demonstrates that flexibility, putting his chest right on his thighs. Amazing.
9s and 9.5s, 82.50 for Ferrucci. David Banucci, the Mizzou Jr. SEC Diver of the Year.
Just missed the back 3.5. He knows it. You can feel it when you go in the water. You know most of the time whether you are vertical. Sometimes you don't know if you made a ton of splash or not, or if you went in without any splash, but you can feel most of the time, and not because it's painful, your angle of entry.
5s and 5.5s for Banucci. Connor Murphy now.
Connor in 4th place after the first 2 of 6 rounds. He really knows how to get in the water. And I'm going to get overly picky here and say if he pointed his toes going in the water, he would have received 9s or above, I think, from all the judges, because this was a terrific dive, and he did this dive impeccably in the preliminaries too. But again, the spotting, using the visual references, really add to the success of that dive.
Over 64 points, 8s and 8s and a halves on that one. Here's Christian Ibsen now. Third round dive for Stanford.
This one is off the 10 meter. All of these dives are new for him. Everything. Oh! Now, the fact that I like watching this and he's having a good time, that makes for a whole bunch of fun for the spectators as well as Ibsen, because he's got a future on the 10 meter if he wants it. He's got options.
Intention maybe to win the platform here, 76.80. Here's Ryan Hawkins now. The junior for the Hokies.
Oh, what a fantastic jump. He's just so high off the platform. These guys are so powerful, it just blows my mind to watch these takeoffs. And then you think, how in the world do they know where they're going and how to get in vertically? And that's the challenge. And yeah, he's disappointed.
39.60 there. Now, Rafael Quintero, 2011 junior national champion, diving for Arizona.
He's in second place, right behind Nick Mccrory. Done 2 fantastic dives, and this dive in arm stand. Tucks up into it. Can do 2 somersaults with 1.5 twists. Well, that is a little bit of a miss for Rafa. The freshman from Arizona, trying to help Arizona stay in the top 3. And that's he will score a lot of points because he's going to be in the top 8, but this was a slight miss for Rafa.
60.80. 6.5's the high scores there. Now Nick Mccrory, final dive, third round. He finished second on both the 3 meter and the 1 meter here.
Yeah, he's the last diver in the round because he was the top qualifier, and he gets to go last because he was first in the preliminaries. He does a back 2.5 from the 5 meter tower. And I asked him, I said, you know, you do a back 3.5 on the 10 meter most of the time. Why are you going off the 5 meter and doing a back 2.5 somersault? And he said, because I've been concentrating on my springboard diving, and that's the answer.
81 points total, 9s and 1 9.5. So 3 rounds complete now. We go to round 4, and Will Chandler from Texas.
Will in 6th place after half the contest. Just a bit deficient, just a little bit short, not quite there. Good jump off the platform. There's, I've talked a lot about the visual references, the spotting, and on the backs and reverse spinners, and that's a back spinner, is where it can really benefit to be good at that.
59.40. Greg Ferrucci now off the 5 meter.
He's pulled up into 2nd place. Now he goes down to the 5 meter to do a back 2.5 somersault. Less than 5 points behind Mccrory. Oh, that's pretty. That's very pretty. We're seeing Mccrory, the leader, do some dives off the lower platforms too, so we could have a winner that does dives off of the 5 meter and or the 7 meter as well as the 10 meter.
73.50. Now David Banucci, Columbia, Missouri junior.
hurt his back a little bit on this dive in the preliminaries. And that's what his coach, Jamie Sweeney, was telling me as I spoke to him after the preliminaries, that he tweaked his back, and this is a tough dive if you have any back issues at all. It's the most difficult reverse spinning dive, and you really have to keep your balance, get your arms through. There's Jamie taking a look at it afterwards on the DVR or the TiVo. And that's what all the divers do these days. It's a great teaching tool.
Just over 42 points on that dive. Now Connor Murphy, 5th last year on the platform.
In some of the performances right now in the middle of the contest, and that's what happens. You put your good dives at the beginning, you put your good dives at the end, and sometimes you sandwich a dive in the middle of the contest that might not be one of your best or one that you have the most confidence on. So seeing a couple of misses here and there.
In the 5 range there, over 54 points total. Now Christian Ibsen has had a tremendous trip here to Indianapolis.
Oh my goodness, he broke David Badia's record on the 1 meter, won that one, won the 3 meter. And now he's in 3rd place in the top 3 as he is learning how to dive platform. Doesn't do all of his dives off 10 meter yet, but what he is doing extremely well, extremely well. That was a back 2.5 pike position, carries a 3.2 degree of difficulty even off the 5 meter.
75.20 keeps him in the hunt here. Ryan Hawkins now, the junior from Virginia Tech, platform champ at the ACCs.
It just seems like he's got a ton of adrenaline. He jumps to the moon and over-rotates just slightly. When you kick out of dives, you really want to kick out and stretch the legs out first, and he does that very well. But as he goes through the water, you see him wash past vertical, so not one of his best dives. And that was all about the entry.
41.25 there. Now the only freshman in this competition here, Rafael Quintero, Arizona.
It's a close contest. And Rafa does a back 2.5 with 1.5 twists in 4th place. But like I said, it's a pretty close contest, and I think he could be in the top 3 very easily. He saves his best 2 dives for last, and that's what Michelle Mitchell told me. And she was the coach until last year at Arizona. She still works at Arizona, but she doesn't coach the divers. She's not the head coach for the divers anymore.
72 points on that dive. And now Nick Mccrory, final dive, 4th round. Second on the 3 meter and the 1 meter. He's a 2-time champion here. The NCAA is on this platform.
And Nick's 4th round dive, another one off of the lower platform. But, you know, there is no reason to worry about Nick not going off the 10 meter at this point. He knows that he's working on his plan for the next quadrennial or headed towards the next Olympic Games. And he's still winning the contest as he does an impeccable reverse 2.5 off of the 5 meter. Impeccable. He's still going to be in 1st place.
The standings after 4 rounds of the platform competition. Nick Mccrory of Duke, the 2-time champion in the platform, has the lead over Greg Ferrucci. Christian Ibsen has already won the 1 meter and 3 meter. He's in 3rd place. Here is the leader, the Duke junior, Nick Mccrory, looking for his 3rd championship on the platform. He's the NCAA record holder. That was 2011.
And he's also the Olympic bronze medalist in synchronized diving with Olympic champion David Bodaya.
Greg Ferrucci in 2nd place. He was 4th at the 1 meter here. 5 meter choice here on his 5th round dive.
That's right. They're allowed to go off any height platform they want. The 5 meter, the 7.5 meter, or the 10 meter. He chooses the 5 meter on this reverse 2.5. He's not the only one doing dives off lower platforms. So is Nick Mccrory. And the obvious question is, why would you go off the lower platform? Well, because you're either working on a more difficult dive on the 10 meter that you haven't mastered yet, or you haven't been practicing as much as you would like to in order to go off the 10 meter safely and do the dives that you want to do. There's a number of reasons, and the judges do not take off for going off a lower platform. It's allowed, it's legal, and it's fine.
See the total of 49.50 for the Kentucky junior.
He knows that that wasn't one of his better dives.
Connor Murphy wants to walk on the IU junior, all Big Ten. Great story.
It is a great story, and his coach Jeff Huber retiring after 34 years at Indiana, retiring from coaching. He's not retiring from Indiana, still might teach in the psychology department. There he is right there, Jeff Huber. He is really considered a master teacher. He has walk-ons, more divers than anybody carries on his squad. He teaches them how to dive, not just great dives, but how to dive. And he has done this over and over and over again. You cannot say enough about what Jeff Huber has done and his work ethic. Oh, there's a really nice inward 3.5. That's what I'm talking about. He takes these walk-ons, and Connor Murphy is a good athlete. There's no doubt about it. He was 5th last year, but Jeff has a way of teaching them these difficult dives, and he's amazing. Jeff likes the dive. He's amazing in the way he teaches, and that he is a PhD in psychology, so he knows a lot about how to handle this.
80, the total score for Connor Murphy. Christian Ibsen going for the triple. He's won the 1 meter. He's won the 3 meter. Can he win the platform here?
I'm going to say yes, he could. Likely? Questionable, but he's in third. About 13 points out. Not going to help him a whole lot. That's a reverse 2.5 off of the 5 meter. Arms up above the head. Squeeze the tuck. Doesn't quite get all the way to vertical. I would say that's his first dive that's been a bit deficient. He's learning how to dive platform, though. He's learning, and he likes diving.
The judges give him a 52.50 here in the 5th round.
Still feels like
This one, yeah, all the way up. You've been impressed with this Arizona freshman, Rafael Quintero from Puerto Rico.
I love Rafa Quintero's diving, and Michelle Mitchell, who was the coach at Arizona for many years, still works at Arizona, but there is a new coach, Omar Ojeda, and Michelle recruited this young man. One of her divers actually coaches Rafa in Puerto Rico, and that was a big mistake by Rafa. He was in 4th place, and I say he only needed 7s and above to go right up into 1st place momentarily. Look what happens. He bends his knees right there before he goes in the water and breaks position, and that will drop him completely out of the top 5 divers.
Disappointing moment right here for the freshman. Nick Mccrory, the 2-time champion, hoping it's 3rd time's a charm. Here, final dive for him in the 5th round.
It's looking really good for Nick to win another NCAA title. He has the record. He's not going to break his own record. He's done some dives off the lower platforms. We're going to see one of those in the final round, but this is his arm stand. Back, double somersault with 1.5 twists, showing a steady balance. Oh, that was fabulous. I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to win this contest. He's been concentrating on springboard, not doing all of his dives off the 10 meter, looking at the 4-year plan, preparing for the next Olympic Games, knows he has some dives to learn. But this dive is the best dive of the competition thus far. Wow.
And look at this, 2 10s, a 91.20 for the Duke Blue Devil in the lead. 1 round to go, and familiar names at the top. Nick Mccrory and Christian Ibsen are 1-2. They'll go for the championship on the platform. Welcome back to Indianapolis and the IU Natatorium, the platform competition, 6th and final round. Nick Mccrory has finished 2nd in the 1 meter and 3 meter to Christian Ibsen. Now Mccrory trying to win the platform for the 3rd time in his storied career. As you look at the standings, Greg Ferrucci right now sitting in 3rd place. Here is Ferrucci. Well, there's Nick Mccrory. the leader. And here is Ferrucci, one of the top divers in Kentucky history.
And Ferrucci right now is in almost a tie for second place. He, Christian Ibsen, and Connor Murphy all vying for second, third, and fourth right now. He needs a good dive here. Missed a little bit in round 5. Needs a good dive here in the last round. Pretty tough position. Now, the entry is what is going to affect the scores most drastically. And look at the angle of the entry. Right there. It's just over. There's vertical, and he was past vertical. And that's the only reason he's not going to receive those really high scores. You know, he's disappointed because he can do all the dives. He can do them.
6.5 the high scores there, 62.40. Connor Murphy, the Indiana junior, 5th on the platform last year. Last dive of Indiana coach Jeff Huber's coaching career. Big moment.
It is a big moment, and I have so much respect for Jeff Huber and what he has done at Indiana, and Connor Murphy is in position to be second or third in this contest. With a good dive here, put the pressure on Christian Ibsen. We'll see how Ibsen responds, but this would be amazing. A walk-on in his junior year, and his coach retiring. That's a nice final round dive. Just a little bit of spray coming up as he goes in the water, and it's going to be a wait-and-see game with Christian Ibsen to see whether Connor Murphy gets second in this. He's learning how to dive platform. He loves it. He says it's fun. This is one of his 10-meter dives. He doesn't do them all on 10-meter yet. Holy smokes! He's going to be second for sure. You don't see a whole lot of emotion out of Dr. Schiavone most of the time, but that smile told it all. Christian Ibsen has lots of options in diving. He's a great springboard diver. He could be an even greater platform diver one of these days if he chooses to be. Wow.
An amazing performance for Ibsen here in Indianapolis as he finishes off his 6th round dive. Here's a freshman from Arizona, Rafael Quintero.
I think this freshman, who's the only freshman in the finals, has such potential. And the fact that he maybe missed a dive in these finals is really not a big deal. It's his first NCAA final. He's from Puerto Rico, and he has a great coach to work with in Omar Ojeda, great mentor coming from Michelle Mitchell, who coached there for so long and is now still at the University of Arizona, so she's involved in the program still, and he saves his last 2 dives, saying that they're his best 2 dives, but he hasn't performed them well here, and I think that's all about pressure in the NCAAs, diving in his first NCAAs.
Nick Mccrory looking for his third platform championship. He talks about why he's doing this dive on the 7-meter.
And he's preparing for more difficult dives on the 10-meter, so this is part of that plan. He's going to do an inward 4.5 somersault on the 10-meter eventually, but he's been concentrating on the springboard, and he's having good success on the springboard. He was second to Christian Ibsen on both the 1-meter and the 3-meter. He's healthy for the first time in a long time. He had a little